Okay, let's start. Let's read the Bible. Another day. We're still in the book of John. I'm Brian Davidson Tarka. And in the last section, we saw Jesus heal somebody. He healed somebody, and this person that he healed was going around talking about it because people were like, hey, weren't you blind? And he's like, yeah, I was. But Jesus healed me. So he's going around talking about that. And the religious leaders hear about this, and that's where we're at right now. We're going to see what they do, what these religious leaders, many of whom want Jesus dead, we're going to see what is being done about this. So here we are, John chapter 9, verses 13 through, let's see, 13 through 34. 13 through 34. Okay, so John 9, verses 13 through 34. Let's begin. The Pharisees investigate the healing of the blind man, his eyes, that I was just talking about. They brought to the Pharisees, the teachers I was talking about, the Pharisees, the man who had been blind. Now, the day on which Jesus had made the mud and opened his eyes, Jesus spit in the ground, put mud on his eyes. That's how he healed him. I'm not saying do that if you wear glasses. I'm not saying if you have eye problems, put mud on your eyes. Don't do that. It's probably not going to help. Uh, I'm just saying this is how Jesus is recorded having done the miracle. Jesus had made mud and opened the man's eyes. Oh, now the day that on which Jesus had made mud and opened the man's eyes was a Sabbath. So it was the Sabbath. What we would say Sunday, some people try to debate that, say it's Saturday. Not important, honestly. What is important is that it was considered a holy day right now, and Jesus was healing on this holy day. Therefore, the Pharisees also asked him how he had received sight. He put mud on my eyes, the man replied, and I washed, and now I see. Some of the Pharisees said, this man is not from God. He does not keep the Sabbath. He's restoring a man's sight on the Sabbath. He's healing. He's doing good. But others asked, how can a sinner perform such signs? So so they were divided. Some are saying he's not doing it our way, so he's he's bad, he's a sinner. It's like, well, how can a sinner actually do these good miracles? How could they even do this in the first place? So the the religious uh, authorities are divided on him. You know, sometimes people who are religious don't agree with each other. Um, on sometimes important things, health issues, like not gathering in churches to spread diseases. That's happening here in America right now, and that's horrible. And please stay home right now, seriously. Um, but yeah, church leadership can be divided. Not all churches are the same. You have to remember that each church is its own thing and doing things very, very different. Stay away from Corona churches. Um, even after all this passes, you might still want to stay away from Corona churches. After this is over. I mean, if the leadership doesn't care about killing you, you probably shouldn't go to that church. Let's go on. They turn. They then they turned again to the blind man What have you to say about him? It was your eyes he opened. So yeah, it's like, oh, by the way, you're still here. Okay, I don't know, maybe that's not how it was, but that's how it feels when I look at it. The man replied, he is a prophet. They still did not believe that he had been blind and had received sight until they had sent for the man's parents. Is this your son? They asked. Is this the one you say was born blind? How is it that he can see? How is it that now he can see? We know he is our son, the parents answered, and we know he was born blind. But how he can see now, or who opened his eyes, we do not know. Ask him. He's of age. He will speak. He will speak for himself. So yeah, the parents come in. I guess they were kind of brought into this religious authority, you know. He's on not an official legal trial, but it sounds like, you know, they're trying to figure this out. It feels like, you know, some of them don't like him, some of them do. Some of them like Jesus, some of them aren't sure what to think about Jesus. You know, these are the same people. Some of them want him dead. You know, these authorities that are in place right now, I think they're kind of interrogating him, you know, hoping to find an excuse. His parents said this because they were afraid of the Jewish leaders, who already had decided that anyone who acknowledged that Jesus was the Messiah would be put out of the synagogues. So they'd be thrown out of church, you know, kind of how we see some people being rejected by religious authorities right now because they're not necessarily of the right political party, you know, or that sort of thing. You know, we see rejection. We're seeing a lot of rejection from religious people right now, saying, well, obviously you're not pure enough, or you're not this enough, or you're not that enough. There's a lot of people drawing lines in the sand, and they were scared of this. You know, they were scared of being rejected from the synagogue because this, you know, what will your neighbors say? And this very, very religious society. So they're like, so literally they're saying, he is of age, ask him. That is, verse 23, that is why his parents said, he is of age, ask him. Verse 24, chapter 9. The second time they summoned the man who had been blind. Give glory to God by telling the truth. They said, we know this man is a sinner. Join the club, we're all sinners. But they didn't seem to believe they were. He replied, whether he is a sinner or not, I don't know. One thing I do know, I was blind, now I see. So he's laying out the facts for the Pharisees. Then they asked him, what did he do to you? How did he open your eyes? He answered, I have told you already, and you did not listen. Why do you want to hear it again? Do you want to become his disciple too? So he's kind of laying it out right there. It's like, I mean, I know in Romania they hate people repeating themselves. And so if you were called back into authorities to say the exact same thing, I know that you would be annoyed. I know in Romania they'd be really annoyed if that's what was going on. Verse 28. Then they hurled insults at him and said, you are this fellow's disciple. We are disciples of Moses. Moses, not this Jesus guy. Moses, have you heard of him? It's like when Christians come to you and say, I'm reading this book, maybe you've heard of it, the Bible. Right now, I'm busy talking to somebody in prayer. Maybe you've heard of him, Jesus. But here, he's actually referring to Jesus, and they're like, well, we're disciples of Moses. So they're like trying to have this like religious competition right now. And let's continue. Verse 29. I think most of us are familiar with religious competitions. Who can be like the biggest, who can be like the most aesthetically godly. But let's look at verse 29. We know that God spoke to Moses, but as for this fellow, we don't even know where he comes from. Galilee, Nazareth, some of them know. Bethlehem, some of them know, but I think they're trying to say, who's this dude? It's like, he's not one of our friends. I've known some wealthy people who would kind of fall back on the, nobody I know has that sort of problem. Nobody we know knows if this guy is like legitly who he says he is. Even though he's performing miracles. He just healed a guy's sight. That should give you a clue as to who he might be. Jesus seems to have the power of God to fix things like this. The man answered, now that is remarkable. You don't know where he comes from, yet he opened my eyes. We know that God does not listen to sinners. He listens to God, the godly person who does his will. Nobody has ever heard of opening the eyes of a man born blind. If this man were not from God, he could do nothing. So the man who's healed, it's obvious to him. It's obvious that Jesus has come from God. And these religious leaders are like, we don't know this guy. Who's he? Did he go to seminary? Did he go to a religious school, to learn this? Is he ordained? Is he even ordained? Who's this guy? Where are his religious credentials? We don't even know who he's from. They knew he was from Galilee. Some would have known he was from Nazareth. And those even closer to him would know he was born in Bethlehem. His family is there. His family is... they tried to kill him at a festival. The family is there. It wouldn't be hard to find out a little bit of his family history by talking to people in the neighborhood. It's like, oh yeah, they came to Galilee from Egypt, and before that, he was born in Bethlehem. There has to be some sort of records that they could go to because they were taking a census, and this is where Jesus was born. So they could find the information if they actually tried, but it doesn't look like they're trying too hard. To this they replied, you were steeped in sin at birth. That's the how dare you lecture us? And they threw him out. They called him back in. And then they threw him out. some people don't like to hear the truth. Some people don't want to hear that, there's something good for them, like Jesus. Some people don't want to hear that something's dangerous, like the coronavirus. But God gives us truth for a reason. And whether that truth comes from a healing, such as this blind man experienced, or from the data of an outbreak that's hitting the world, and some countries are having a better time battling it than other countries. Denying facts doesn't help us. It doesn't help us to say that something is just a cold, when the scientists and doctors are telling us differently. Truth is truth. And this truth that Jesus was the Son of God was readily apparent to this person. But no matter how religious the authority is, if it denies the truth, it's suddenly worthless. Here we have an account that Jesus is the Son of God. And we can be thankful for this account, and we can be thankful that truth is so important to God. So stick to the truth. If you're a Christian, we can be thankful that Jesus is God. He's a God who does heal and reach out, and we can trust him in this, whatever happens, because bad and good things are going to happen. But within those bad and good things, God is even more trustworthy than the authoritarians who are going to say that they have our best interest. All right, you guys take care. I'm going to come back tomorrow with another Bible reading. And that will be about spiritual blindness, which I think we just saw from some of the leaders here. So come back for that. Take care. Bye-bye.